US aid chief says India extends a wide-scale support for the international efforts in reviving and stabilizing the Sri Lankan economy. President says he accepts the demand of the youth who engage in the struggle to change the system of the country. Black Cap movement concludes its contribution to the Gore-Face protest. Travel ban imposed on Reverend Father Jeevantha Pires, Vasantha Mudalige, Joseph Stalin, Lahira Virasekara and Eranga Gunasekara. Interest rates rise in the United States with the rapid price hike of commodities. Asia Cup 2022 Cricket Championship to be held in the UAE.
On to those and other stories in detail now, and starting off with the top local story. Administration of United States Agency for International Development Samantha Power says India extended a wide-scale support for the international efforts in reviving and stabilizing the Sri Lankan economy.
She made these remarks during an exclusive interview with an Indian news agency, NDTV.
There's a situation developing in India's neighborhood with Sri Lanka. India has stepped up, helped its neighbor. But is there anything else that India and perhaps USAID or US can do together to help stabilize the Sri Lankan economy?
Well, first, just let me say how important what India has done so far has been. I mean, to extend $3.5 billion in lines of credit. There weren't a lot of countries or institutions coming forward to do that, and the government in Sri Lanka, of course, needed that desperately. I think $16 million in humanitarian assistance from India. We have contributed since the crisis started in May, $32 million in humanitarian and development assistance. Again, it's something I think we're in very close touch in order to coordinate to make sure we're not duplicating the kind of assistance. There's so much need. It's pretty hard to duplicate at this stage, honestly. But I think, now what Sri Lanka is doing is trying to work through some of the debt that it has carried over, and that's one of the reasons that they're in this terrible bind. And there, I think, for all creditors to come together and to support the debt negotiations that are underway. And here we do need Beijing as well to come urgently to the table. So I think for every country, especially powerful countries like India and the United States, to be sending that message on behalf of the Sri Lankan people is very important.
Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina conveyed her congratulatory wishes to newly elected President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Bangladeshi Premier said that strengthening the ties between the two nations is essential to overcome the present challenges. The congratulatory message, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has indicated her confidence in President Wickremesinghe's wealth of experience, wisdom and political acumen, which will be instrumental in bringing about the desired peace and prosperity in Sri Lanka. This year, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are celebrating 50 years of solidarity and friendship, a friendship which is based on historic linkages, shared values and cultures, mutual respect and a multitude of commonalities, the letter further read. The Bangladeshi Premier has expressed her conviction that relations between two countries will be further strengthened in coming days through multi-pronged sectoral cooperation for the multi-benefit of the people. Chinese Premier Li Qiang has also extended a congratulatory message to newly elected Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Dinesh Gunawardena. In his message, the Chinese Premier said that China and Sri Lanka enjoy profound traditional friendship and are friendly neighbours and strategic cooperative partners. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties of 65 years ago, the two countries have always respected each other and treated each other equally, continuously consolidated political mutual trust and enhanced mutual beneficial cooperation, and worked hand in hand to address difficulties and challenges. Bilateral relations have developed in a sound and stable way. He said that he is willing to work with Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena to strengthen the unity and mutual assistance among developing countries, deepen practical cooperation in all areas, and deliver the more benefits of the two countries and to people.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri met with the Chinese Ambassador Shi Shenghong at the ministry yesterday. At the outset, Ambassador Shi Shenghong congratulated the Foreign Minister on his new appointment and handed over the congratulatory message of State Councillor and the Foreign Minister of China, Wang Yi. The Minister of Foreign Affairs stated that Sri Lanka and China are traditional friendly countries with long-standing bilateral and economic relations. Both parties expressed great satisfaction over strong bilateral relations, including government-to-government and the people-to-people contacts. The senior officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the officials of the Chinese Embassy were also presented during the meeting. Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says he accepts the demand of the youth who engaged in the struggle to change the system of the country.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed these views when he addressed the staff at the Sirikota United National Party headquarters in Pitakote yesterday. United National Party General Secretary Palitharange Bandara, National Organizer Sangala Ratnayaka and Party Chief Executive Officer Shamal Senarath received the President who arrived at the party headquarters. President Wickremesinghe pointed out that everyone is allowed to engage in peaceful protest according to the law of the country, and those who are engaged in the struggle also have the same right. President Wickremesinghe also mentioned that he assumed the presidency at a time when the country is facing a difficult situation, and he has taken many steps to overcome the economic challenges and move the country forward. The Back Clap movement officially concluded its contribution to the goal face protest with effect from today. Issuing a statement, the Back Clap movement announced Aragalia 4.0, the next phase of its protest, which aims at bringing in wide-scale socio-political reforms. The Black Cap movement initiated the candlelight vigil held on March 1st at the Kohuvala Junction in response to the failures of the present government to find solutions for the socio-economic and socio-political crisis. The movement observed that the socio-economic crisis was transforming into a political crisis and aimed at spearheading a non-violent people's protest based on Go Ta Go Home social media campaign. As such, a series of peaceful micro-protests commenced from Kohuvala and expanded to other parts of Colombo and the suburbs. The non-violent protest model then succeeded in attracting women in the middle-class segments through the series of protests titled Kitchen Lemon, that kitchen of after May 9. The April 9 protest at Goldface Green provided to the world how people could achieve their demands through a non-violent protest. The movement said that the present generation has symbolically succeeded in outstanding an executive president through the Go Ta Go Home campaign. As such, the Go Ta Go Home slogan has become a reality. The statement further said that the next step of the movement would be to fulfill the unfulfilled demands of the people while drafted alongside the Go Ta Go Home campaign, and as such, protest requires a new phase to bring about these reforms. These demands have been included in the Beyond Goldface declaration, which was drafted following discussions with various stakeholders at the Goldface protest sites, which were held from April 12 to May 12. The movement said that their protest will be aimed at bringing about the relevant reforms and looking forward to join hands with civil society and political movements to achieve this objective. According to the statement, has indicated that the name of the phase has been fashioned as Aragalia 4.0. The movement has also indicated that their beliefs is no reason for them to continue occupying the Goldface protest site now that its primary objective has been fulfilled. The statement has pointed out that the protest has expanded into a broader socio-political space, and the movement conclude their contribution to Goldface protest which effect from today. The statement had been issued under the signatories co-conveners Vimukti Dushanta and Hemapriya Kaviratna and General Secretary Akalanka Hettiarachi. And meanwhile, today is the 111th day of the mass protest taking place at the Goldface Green. The police briefed the protesters over the court order issued to prevent public gatherings and assembling around a 50-meter radius of the SWRD Bandaranaike statue in Goldface Green. And meanwhile, the Colombo Crimes Division arrested social media activist Pathum Kerner today. The arrest was made following an interrogation.
He was taken into custody over the unruly incidents occurred at the entry road to the parliament near the Polduva Junction during a protest recently. Even though he was informed to arrive at the CCD to record a statement, he had ignored the relevant summon. A court order had been issued recently preventing him from travelling abroad. Colombo Fort Magistrate yesterday remanded Danesh Ali, an individual who was arrested while attempting to leave for Dubai on a flight until August 5th. He was taken into custody while attempting to flee the country, ignoring a warrant issued against him. He is expected to be summoned before an identification parade as well. Meanwhile, Colombo Fort Magistrate issued travel bans against Reverend Father Jivanta Piris, Vasanta Mudalige, Joseph Starling, Lahira Virasekara and Eranga Gunasekara for unruly behaviour and causing public distress by blocking the entry roads to Finance Ministry and Presidential Secretariat. The police had made the request based on intelligent reports received over the suspects attempting to flee the country. Colombo Fort Magistrates Court today issued arrest warrants on activists Lahiru Virasekara and Venerable Tampitiye Sukathananda Thera over failure to attend a court proceeding. When a case pertaining to unlawful public assembly was called earlier today, Virasekara and Sukathananda Thera failed to appear before the court. Colombo Fort Magistrate Thilina Gamagi ordered the police today to present the money worth 17.8 million rupees in a cash found by the activists in the President's house on July 9th. The magistrate also ordered the release of 4 suspects who were arrested on suspicion of trespassing on the President's house on personal bails of 500,000 rupees each. The Fort Police informed the court that the investigations have revealed that these suspects were also present when the money found inside the presidential residence was being counted. Colombo Fort Magistrate ordered today to remand suspect taken into custody for allegedly stealing 2 television sets from temple trees until August 10th. The police requested the court to keep the suspect in remand until the investigations are completed. Kaduala Magistrate Court ordered today to remand a suspect for allegedly damaging public properties during a protest organised by the Inter University Student Federation in front of the Minister of Education.
A total of 4,296 million users have been registered with the National Fuel Pass. Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara said that almost 50% of the fuel stations are registered on the QR system. 409 Sipetco filling stations, 72 IOC filling stations registered under the QR system. The minister in a tweet said that 409 Sipetco filling stations and 72 IOC filling stations have been registered accordingly. The minister also said that indicated that the business with multiple vehicles can register all vehicles in the National Fuel Pass with the business registration number. The minister also adds that the fuel requirements for machinery must be registered with the respective divisional secretariats with the weekly fuel requirements. Japan has donated $1.5 million worth medicine and equipment consignment to Sri Lanka. Japanese Ambassador Michikoshi Hideki presented the consignment officially to Minister Keheli Rambukwala. The support of the state sector employees has also been extended for the successful implementation of the QR pilot project. Accordingly, all filling stations in Badulla are using the QR system at present. The Youth Services Council has also extended the support to resolve the issue pertaining to the QR activation. The supply of fuel under the QR system was also initiated at the Mallavapitiya filling station in Kurunagala. The QR system has also been implemented as pilot projects in several filling stations in Kurunagala and suburbs. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Petroleum Private Tank Owners Association said that there are difficulties in maintaining an all-island-wide fuel distribution at present. On to more local stories, Dr. Chana De Silva urges the public to adhere to health safety practices as before with preventing COVID risks to the outbreak of the new Omicron variant.
Meanwhile, Health Services Director General confirmed 131 COVID-19 infected patients today.
The number of patients with confirmed COVID-19 infections is on rise over the last few weeks. It was less than 10 most of the time before a few months, but now it's increased over 100 and daily now it seems we are having disease. It's going on. The problem is the number of deaths also on the rise. So the thing is, these situations, if this is continue in the same rate, we might expect significant number of patients over next few weeks. As we all know, the number of patients has reduced. There was significant control in COVID-19 infections over last few months, and because of that, the protective measures that we followed during last 2 years, we just sometimes we forget it, or sometimes we didn't want to follow because of this assurance of reduced rates of the transmission of disease in Sri Lanka. But we should not forget this is a transmissible disease and the virus is highly transmissible. So every country, this is a very common situation, especially till this completely, if we able to eradicate this disease, it will take a few more years. Till that, we have to live with this virus, we have to live with this variant, we have to live with the COVID-19 infection. So because because of that, it is always highly recommended to use face mask, maintain the distance as much as possible. Sometimes due to practical difficulties, the maintenance of distance might be difficult, but the easiest things we can follow to control the spread of this disease is wearing face mask properly. Sometimes we see, even though they wear face mask, most of the people do not wear it properly, and sometimes they do not cover both the mouth and nose. So these are essential things. Otherwise, even though we wear face mask, we can acquire the disease. The situation is the bad side of this disease, or the development of this recurrent waves of disease is it affects the children, the future of our country. As we all know, last 2 years their education has hampered significantly, and now due to this fuel crisis, some durations they had problems in their education, schooling. We have to close the schools, but now again the things are getting normalized. So this is the situations as adults, as parents, to follow our social responsibility and restart all the things we just forgotten over last few months to control the spread of the COVID-19 infections. Because if this disease again spread in Sri Lanka, and the situations we consider which has happened over last few weeks, it's very high chance of having more and more cases within next few weeks. So this is the high time to consider and actively enrolling, considering the prevention of the disease spread, because it might affect children's education again.
And meanwhile, 2 persons have been killed from a shooting incident that took place in front of a funeral house in Galagoda, Ambalangoda. Another injured from the incident has been admitted to the Balapitiya Base Hospital. Accordingly, the deceased have been identified as the owner of the funeral house and the another person who had visited the funeral. The 2 individuals who had arrived in a motorcycle had opened fire at the deceased with a T-56 firearm. The police have raised suspicions over a possible link between the incident and another killing occurred in Uravatta, Ambalangoda area on the 26th. And meanwhile, the Mobitel unveils its national proposal for further focused technology and digital empowered citizens.
The launch was presided over by Chairman of Sri Lanka Telecom Rohan Fernando. As the leading communication technology service provider in Sri Lanka, SLT Mobitel aims to enhance critical services and sectors through this national proposal. The new system change proposed by SLT Mobitel places digitally empowered citizens at its foundation with digitalization of identities and strong digital security and privacy. SLT Mobitel has identified healthcare, education, transportation, agriculture, tourism, judiciary and banking and finance as critical services and sectors that can thrive under the new system more efficiently and transparently. Now, Professor Sunanda Madhuma Bandara and Shenuka Seneviratna have been appointed as the senior advisors to the President.
These appointments were made on the instructions of the President by the Secretary to the President, Saman Ekanayaka. Professor Madhuma Bandara as the President's Senior Advisor on Media and Shenuka Seneviratna as the President's Senior Advisor on International Media assumed their respective duties recently. Professor Sunanda Madhuma Bandara, a former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Kelaniya, he has held the post of Head of the Department of Economics and the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences at the University of Kelaniya. He has also served as the Secretary to the State Minister of Media and also as the Director General of Information. He was also the Director General of the Economic Development Ministry. President Senior Advisor Seneviratna is a senior former diplomat of the Sri Lanka Foreign Services and former Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She had served as the High Commissioner to the UK, Ambassador to Thailand and the Permanent Representative to the United Nations in both Geneva and New York. Former MP Sagala Ratnayaka, who was appointed as the President's Chief of Staff, assumed duties at the President's office this morning. Chairman of the United National Party, Member of Parliament Vajra Bewardhana, Deputy General Leader Ruan Vijayawardena, General Secretary Panitharange Bandara, former Minister Nimal Siripal de Silva, Member of Parliament Nimal Lansa and Secretary to the President Saman Ekanayaka and senior officers of the President's office participated in this event.
Now, Deputy Leader of United National Party Ruan Vijayawardena has been appointed to the Senior Advisor to the President on climate change. The relevant appointment was made by President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Sri Lanka signed the Paris Convention in the year 2016. The global attention has been directed to prevent damages caused on the planet from climate change. Sri Lanka is required to fulfill various duties and tasks to uphold this responsibility. UNP Deputy Leader Ruwan Vijayawardena has been appointed to the advisor post to obtain advisors and cooperation for the project required to be initiated for the development of carbon and greenhouse gas emissions, implementing renewable energy projects and to build the green economy. And meanwhile, the Samaki Janabala Vega says only a government led by Sajith Premadasa can rebuild the country.
These remarks were shared during a media briefing held at the opposition leader's office today. MP Hesha Vithanage said that opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, in his own effort, empowers social segments in the country, including children, through the implementation of various programs. He said that despite the August 9th claims, the party is always prepared to strengthen the youth in the country. Now, parliamentarian Dallas Alhaperuma says the solution for the present crisis is an all-party process.
He made these remarks over a media briefing held in Colombo today. MP Dallas Alhaperuma said that they raised voices to build an all-party government together with the main opposition despite different views and opinions to resolve the issues pertaining to the country at present. He said that all members of the parliament are accountable to fulfill this effort. Accordingly, he said that their final state is an all-party process to resolve the present crisis. And the General Secretary of the United Sri Lanka, Podujana Peramuna Sagarakaravasam, says unlawfulness is ruling the country in the guise of struggle.
He made these remarks during a media briefing held in Colombo today. SLPP MP Sagar Karivasan said that the law of the country collapsed in the last couple of days in the guise of people's struggle. He said that the real image of certain entities engaged in the struggle has become evident to the people of the country. He said that no room should be left for these entities to use the struggle for their own benefit. He added that they are confident that the President will take necessary steps to establish law and order in the country. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party says an all-party government is the only solution to overcome the existing crisis in the country.
Chairman of the party and former President Maithripala Sirisena made these remarks over during a media briefing held at the party headquarters today. Former President Maithripala Sirisena said that a proposal has been submitted to the current president and expected to negotiate and learn to feedback the president in this regard. Accordingly, the former president said that the SLFP stands in an all-party government to overcome the present economic, social and political crisis in the country. And meanwhile, Minister Susil Premajant says that the transportation of school teachers and students will return to normalcy by the next Monday.
The minister said that an efficient program has been prepared in this regard following negotiations with all relevant stakeholders. After assuming duties as the leader of the House, the minister engaged in religious observances at the Bellanville Raja Mahaviharaya. The minister then received blessings from chief incumbent of the temple, Venerable Dr. Bellanville Dhammaratana Thera. The Japanese ambassador in Sri Lanka, Mizukoshi Hideki, met with Minister Bandula Gunawardena at the Ministry of Highways. Discussions were held on strengthening bilateral relations and improving long-lasting friendship between Sri Lanka and Japan. Attention was also directed on projects to improve transport and highway sectors. The Japanese ambassador said that Japan will provide necessary assistance to Sri Lanka to overcome the present economic crisis.
Dialog has taken steps to improve its broadband connectivity island-wide. Dialog Axiata PLC expected to receive $150 million worth loan assistance from the IFS for this project. Another objective of this initiative is to establish a new 4G coverage zone celebrating the present coverage in the country. Its fiber optic network is also expected to improve under this project. The Dialog experts to improve the capacity and efficiency of its main network operational system. Stay tuned for international news at the other side of this break.
හොඳම දේ විශ්වාසයෙන් ට්‍රීට් කරන්න. Prima Treats. Life is a treat.
We'll come back with international news. The United States Central Bank has announced another unusual large interest rate hike as it battles to rein in soaring prices in the world's largest economy. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund warned this week that the global economy may be teetering on the brink of the recession.
The Federal Reserve of the United States said that it would increase its key rate by 0.75 percentage points, targeting a range of 2.25% to 2.5%. The bank has been raising borrowing costs since March in an effort to calm the economy and ease price inflation. But fears are rising the moves will tip the U.S. into recession. Recent reports have shown falling consumer confidence, a slowing housing market, jobless claims rising, and the first contraction in business activity since 2020. Many expect official figures this week expected to indicate that the U.S. economy shrank for the second quarter in a row. In many countries, this milestone is considered a recession, though it is measured differently in the United States. Federal Reserve of the United States acknowledged that parts of the economy were slowing, but said the bank was likely to keep raising interest rates in the months ahead despite the risks, pointing to inflation that is running at a 40-year high. Analysts expect the U.S. Federal Reserve to raise rates to between 3 to 4% by the end of the year. As the United States growth stalls, price rises squeeze households around the world, the International Monetary Fund warned that the global economy may be teetering on the brink of recession. Already some firms in the tech and housing industries, which saw rapid gains in recent years due to low borrowing costs, have announced job cuts or plans to slow hiring, citing the market shift. But with inflation soaring, the IMF have pointed out that the central bank have no other measure but to increase interest rates.
Thousands of demonstrators chanting anti-Iran slogans stormed the Iraqi capital's government center and occupied the parliament building yesterday, restarting corruption and denouncing the leading candidate to be the country's next prime minister. The majority of the protests were followers of influential Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr. The demonstrators were seen walking on the tables of the parliament floor, living through the folders, sitting in the chairs of lawmakers and waving Iraqi flags. The incident raised a stake in the political struggle for Iraq nearly 10 months after federal elections. No lawmakers were present. Only security forces were inside the building, and they appeared to allow the protesters in with relative ease. The demonstrators were protesting to raise a slogan of Mohammad al-Sudani as the official nominee of the Cooperation Framework Bloc, a coalition led by Iraqi capital Shia partners of their allies.
On sports news, Sri Lanka managed to secure 246 runs victory in the second test match played against Pakistan today. Accordingly, the two test matches series ended in a draw.
The match was played at Galle International Cricket Stadium. At the start of play, Pakistan was 89 runs for the loss of 2 wickets. Captain Bazar Azam scored 81 runs while recording his 23rd half-century in Test cricket. Prabhat Jayasuriya picked up 5 wickets and Ramesh Mendis picked up 40 to break the strongest resistance showed by Pakistani top order. Accordingly, Pakistan only managed to gather 261 runs for their second innings. With the victory, Sri Lanka climbed up to the 3rd place in the ICC Test World Championship table. Dhananjay De Silva was named the man of match and Prabhat Jayasuriya became the man of the series.
Now, Asia Cup 2022 Cricket Championship expected to be played in the United Arab Emirates. The tournament was previously expected to be hosted by Sri Lanka.
Asia Cup 2022 is scheduled to be held from the August 27th to September 11th. Sri Lanka holds the hosting rights of the tournament. Asia Cricket Council Shah J. Shah in a statement said that all efforts were taken to organize the tournament in Sri Lanka, yet following many rounds of negotiations, a discussion was reached to take the tournament to UAE. He said that a prevailing economic crisis is the closest reason to shift the tournament.
And that's all the news we have for tonight. Do join us tomorrow at 8:50 p.m. for the very latest on Channel Eye. I'm Delanjali together with Charita signing off. Good night.
Good night.